Hey, welcome back to Math Partake. The question here says, find the slope between 2 points that pass through 0, 5 and 10, 15. What we're going to go over is what you need to understand for this example. Then we'll go over what your answer is actually going to come out to. And then we'll do our step-by-step process. So if you look here to the right-hand side, these three things, these are the things that you need to understand in order to get this problem correct. And we're going to actually go over these things. The first is, what is the definition of a slope? Now, the funny thing is that when you're in your math class, you're probably going to hear a lot of different words used to describe this word slope. You'll probably hear constant rate of change. You'll hear the change of y over the change in x. You'll hear rise over run. You'll hear unit rate. You may even hear steepness of a line, or you could hear your teacher say the m value. All of these 6 different definitions, so to speak, they all mean the same thing. They mean slope. Now, myself, I like to define the word slope as the average distance between points. So the second thing that you need to understand for this problem is how to label ordered pairs, or I like to say how to label coordinates. And we're going to go over that as we get through the example. Final thing that you really need to understand is the slope formula, which you see right here. Now, this slope formula is it's just a nice shortcut to find the slope instead of actually drawing a graph and trying to guess how far one point is from another point. And that formula is y sub 2. And when I say sub, that's short for saying subscript. So you hear me saying sub instead of subscript. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And when we're done going through all these things and we understand the process of getting to our answer is usually going to be the slope equals a fraction or a number. Okay? So let's take a look at example number 1, where it says find the slope between 2 points that pass through 0, 5 and 10, 15. So our first step is going to be to rewrite our points, or some say rewrite the ordered pairs or the coordinates. I'll use a lot of different words so you understand what your teachers may say. So let's rewrite these coordinates. Zero, 5 and 10, 15. Okay? Step 2 is to label these ordered pairs with what we have in our slope formula, which is y sub 2, y sub 1, x sub 2, and x sub 1. So what I like to do is start it off with the x and y value, because our coordinates are always x and y values. And this is our first set of ordered pairs. This is our first set of coordinates. So we're just going to put a 1 for our sub 1. So we have x sub 1 and y sub 1. And then here, this is our second set of coordinates. So we have x sub 2 and y sub 2. Step 3, we're going to write the slope formula. So our slope formula is right here. And we're just going to write it down here now. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'm going to put an equal sign there. Step 4. We're going to substitute all the x and y values from our coordinates into our slope formula. Okay? Now, I'm actually going to write the values right above the formula and right below the formula to avoid making mistakes. So what we have here, if we look at our value for x sub 1, we're going to see that x sub 1 equals 0. So I'm going to put a little 0 here. And then we see that our x sub 2 equals 10. So I'm going to put a 10 here. And I'll keep this minus sign. And then if you look above, you see that we still need y sub 2 and y sub 1. Now y sub 2 equals 15. So I'll put a 15 there, and y sub 1 equals 5. We're getting all of this from what we labeled earlier. Now that I've done that, I'll go on to what I told you in step 4, which is to substitute all x and y values into the slope formula. I'll do that right here. So I'm just taking the 15 minus 5 and putting it in the numerator. And then I'm going to put the 10 minus 0 in the denominator. Keep everything nice and consistent. So let's look at step 5. Very simple at this point. Solve the numerator and solve the denominator. So our numerator says 15 minus 5. You should come up with 10. So our numerator is going to be 10. And our denominator says 10 minus 0. 10 minus 0 is 10. So now we're getting to the point where we're almost finished. In some classes, you can actually leave the answer like this and your teacher will be happy with it. In many classes, they actually want you to simplify your fraction. How do you know what to do in order to simplify the fraction? Well, I put it to you like this. If there's any number that goes into both the numerator and the denominator evenly, then you can use that number to simplify your fraction. So I'll simplify my fraction right down here. Let's just put 10 over 10. And the number that can go into both the numerator and the denominator evenly is obviously 10. So we'll just say that we'll divide the numerator by 10 and we'll divide the denominator by 10. And that will simply give us 10 divided by 10 on top. The numerator is going to be 1 over, same thing in the denominator, 10 divided by 10 is also 1. Me personally, I think it makes sense to leave it like this, but it's equal to 1. So your slope is equal to 1, and that is your answer.